So this video is about these vehicles, the Hyundai Ioniq Electric. It's not a full-blown review video, there's no point me repeating what others have already done on YouTube, but the purpose of this is to give you a bit more additional information and some technical information that others don't seem to have, and help you if you're looking to buy one of these as your first electric vehicle. So what are they? They're basically a 5-door hatchback family size car. Similar size to a Nissan Leaf. I'm going to compare them to a Leaf quite often because they're the obvious comparison, being electric as well. And they've been around since 2017 to this year, 2020. And now in 2020 there's obviously a revised model with a slightly larger battery pack as well. So both of these are 2017 models. That one is a premium SE spec. That's actually my own car and has done 70,000 miles. This one is a premium spec car. I think has done 30,000 miles. We'll have a look in a minute. And these Ioniqs, they are made in mild hybrid, plug-in hybrid, or these are the fully electric. So I'm only discussing the fully electric cars here. And the obvious way you can tell which ones are the electric Ioniqs is because they've got this grey panel here, no grille. Obviously the grille would be here on the combustion engine vehicles, and I think this is the nicest feature of the car personally. You can also tell it's electric because the electric models only have this copper accents on it, so along there at the front of the bumper, in the headlights here, around the headlights, and then also the same on the back, and the trim along the bottom of the doors. And then you get it all throughout the inside, around the air vents, centre console, around the switches, around the sat-nav screen, on the steering wheel, around your stop-start button there. And when it's the cloth interior, you get these sort of copper shapes in the seats, which is really nice. However, on the blue paint on my car here, they have changed the copper on the outside to silver. You don't get copper in the headlights either, or on the bottom of the doors, but you still get the copper on all the trim on the dash. This car's got the leather seats, and you get sort of a copper colour piping and stitching on the leather. So I'm not sure whether the lack of copper on the outside is due to the colour or whether it's due to being a premium SE rather than a premium. So you may well know about these Ioniq Electrics is they are hugely efficient, and they've got a relatively small battery pack. It's a 28 kilowatt hour lithium ion polymer battery, and the official figures, the EPA rating is 124 miles and the NEDC test is 170 miles. And normal EVs, you would take that NEDC figure and knock off a good 30% or more to get the realistic real-world driving figure. However, these Ioniqs are incredibly efficient, and without even trying you can smash the EPA rating figure. I sort of get 135 mile range out of my blue one, and that's just driving locally without even making any attempt at driving them efficiently. I have heard that it is possible to get the 170 miles out of these. So I've yet to sort of do any real long distance driving on my EV. Since I've owned it, I'm only pottering around and I don't care about driving efficiently. But in the summer I'm seeing 130 miles on the gasometer every single time, and I'm sure if I just drove it a bit more efficiently and on a longer run, then I would see 140 miles or more, which is fantastic for a 28 kilowatt hour battery pack. Next, I'll just quickly talk about charging. The button to open the charge flap is down there. The only slight downside of these is they've positioned the charging port behind what would have been the filler cap on the petrol versions. Ideally you want your charge port at the front, but anyway, they're behind there. They're not the only car that does this. Obviously Teslas do this, BMW i3s do this. So we've got two charge ports. So your top is your Type 2, and it's a 6.6 kilowatt AC charging port, and then this is your CCS charging port, your DC rapid charging. So when charging on AC, which normally is going to be at home overnight, it's going to take about 4.5 hours to charge from flat to full on a 7 kilowatt wall charger. But if you're using the 10 amp portable charger, often called the granny cable, then that's going to take more like 12 hours because those can only draw 10 amp. And then when charging on DC on a public rapid charger, you're going to get a charge from 0 to 80% in around 30 minutes. So most public rapid chargers in the UK currently are 50 kilowatts, and the brochure for the Ioniq state this charges at 50 kilowatt. However, many have now found that it will actually charge at a faster rate. So if you can find one of those newer 100 or 150 kilowatt rapid chargers, which are often now being installed in BP petrol stations, then this car will actually charge up to 69.5 kilowatt. And there is a little telltale sign in the Hyundai brochure where they actually say on a 100 kilowatt charger it will charge in 24 minutes, but they've never actually stated what the maximum charge speed is. So they will charge a little bit quicker if you can find one of those newer public DC rapid chargers. And these cars do have scheduled charging on the dash. However, there is no app with these, so you can't do any scheduling on your phone. And all cars were supplied with both a portable charger and a Type 2 to Type 2 charging cable. However, what you find a lot of times is second-hand cars don't always come with both cables. People have a habit of keeping these and either keeping them for their next car or sticking them on eBay to make a bit of extra profit. However, the portable charger, standard sort of portable charger, allows you to charge the car on a 3-pin mains socket, on a standard socket of course. So when you're charging on a, well, these are often called granny cables, so when you're charging on a granny cable, the charger will only draw 10 amp versus about 30 amp if you're charging on a proper wall charger, and that's just because it's got to protect your mains wiring, otherwise your mains wiring is going to get very warm. So it does take longer, but it will be charged overnight. And this is your normal charge cable, which you're going to want to keep in the car because you will also need this if you're going to charge on a public charging post. Standard Type 2 to Type 2 32 amp cable. And you also get the 3 light arrangement on the top of the dash to show you the state of charge when you're charging, just like you do with a Nissan Leaf and a Kia Soul. So let's talk about the boot. So with the seats up it's 455 litres, with the seats down it is 1410 litres. So the boot size is about the same size as a Leaf, but with the seats down it is fractionally bigger. You do get this elasticated net to hold loads down. You get 4 hooks. You've got your subwoofer speaker there. You've also then got storage underneath, a little bit of storage. So there's the puncture repair kit and the towing eye. There should actually be a little triangle there, but not much there. You can't store the charging cables underneath. And then to drop the seats, you've got levers there. They are a sort of 60-40 split. That parcel shelf will lift out, as I said. I don't think the parcel shelf, actually it does, the parcel shelf will fit in here, slots down in there all the way across, which is great, so you can get that out of the way. There's a picture there showing you how to mount that in there, which is a great system. I should know that, I remember I have done it in mine now, only the once. But yeah, huge amount of space with the seats down. It is absolutely vast, and if I just show you what it looks like, they don't go completely flat because of the base cushion. They do rise up a little bit, but it's pretty good. It is still flush with the floor, and it's a huge amount of space. These are pretty spacious cars, to be honest. So let's give you some rough sizes, because people are always asking me about fitting wheelchairs or buggies and things in the back of cars. So the width, if I can just get the tape measure straight, the width is basically a metre. It's 1 metre and 1 centimetre, and then the full length, that driver's seat, it is about my position. So the full length, you're looking at about 1.75 metres, Height is a bit difficult to measure because it's got quite a sloping back, but at worst we're looking at 1/2 metre, and then at best, this is a bit awkward to do this one-handed while I'm holding the camera, but there we go, sorry for the shaking about. I really need 2 hands at this, but at best it's 69 centimetres. So while we're at the back, let's talk about the spoiler on the back window. So this spoiler just goes right across the middle of the glass, and it's right in your vision when you're looking out of the rearview mirror. A lot of people complain about it. Personally, I don't think it's an issue. You very quickly get used to it, and it's fine. It doesn't completely hinder your vision. These also have reversing cameras, so when you're parking you tend to use the side mirrors and then the camera anyway. But for normal driving you very quickly get used to it, and I don't find it a problem. It's there for efficiency, and that's why the Toyota Prius has the same setup. This car, the whole design about it is about efficiency, and this has a purpose. The thing that isn't great though is it doesn't have a rear wiper. You can sort of help to combat that a little bit by coating the glass with a treatment like Rain-X, and that just helps to keep the dirt and the water off. But it's this little bit of glass here that gets dirty the quickest, because obviously like all cars it's throwing up dirt out the back, and the spoiler sort of stops it going further, and this bit at the bottom does get very dirty. But as I said, they have a rear camera anyway, so it's not a major issue. If I just jump into my car here there and look through the rear view mirror, it's a bit difficult because obviously the camera's in the way, but we can see there the spoiler is in the middle of your vision. So continuing on that discussion about the efficiency, these cars are really, really quiet. All EVs are quiet obviously, but these are particularly quiet. There's very little wind noise. The aerodynamics of it is quite amazing, and in fact all you can hear is tyre noise, which it makes the tyres sound worse, and you get this when people move into an EV for the first time. They're not quite as quiet as they thought because they can hear tyre noise, and it's not because the tyres are any worse. Tyres are exactly the same as an ICE vehicle, it's just that you don't have an engine drowning it out. So on an ICE vehicle you've got engine making the most noise, and then wind noise and tyres, and you tend to hear the tyres the least. With an ICE vehicle obviously you do away with that engine, and with these it pretty much no wind noise at all. Normally on most cars you get a bit of wind noise as the wind goes around the mirrors, but really clever design on these. There's absolutely no wind noise whatsoever. They've got this little lump here which clearly is doing something. But you can hear the tyres. That's why when you're buying tyres for EVs it's very important to buy the quietest tyre you can get. But it's not that the tyres are noisy, it's just the lack of wind noise on this. This just slips through the air, and it's lovely to drive. And part of that efficiency is down here on the alloy wheels. That's why you have these plastic inserts between the spokes. A flat alloy is much more efficient than an alloy with big gaps. This blue car here has silver alloy wheel with the black inserts, and we look at the white car, it's still got the black inserts but the alloy is painted white. So looking at the front of the car, obviously very aerodynamic because you don't have a grille, it's all very smooth. Even the badge is smooth because on modern cars where they've got radar systems, they often do away with three-dimensional badges and have a flat plastic panel because that's got your radar behind it. And then this is your air intake. EVs still have radiators, so you still need an air intake of some sort, but much less cooling needed, so a very slim air intake at the bottom. And then this is your daytime running light, and you've got an air intake here which is taking air from the side, hooking it behind here and coming out a slot there. I'm surprised though they didn't get the wipers hooked down underneath the bonnet, but all very smooth. Slightly lower roof on these cars, but yeah, very smooth glass. The back glass feels like it's thinner as well. I guess to save weight, because these cars are light. For the size, these cars are actually quite light. The premium model is 1,420 kilos and the premium SE is 1,475 kilos. So very light for the size of the vehicle. It's a bit of a myth that electric cars are heavy. They're not really. But these are lighter. So what people forget is the weight of diesel in a diesel tank, or petrol obviously. So if you had a similar sized car in a diesel, by the time you add the extra 80 kilos or so for a tank of fuel, most cars at this size will be heavier than what these are. While I'm talking figures, let's just have a quick look at what's under the bonnet. This is obviously front wheel drive. The electric motor is here at the front. It's a 120 horsepower motor. All of this is your electric motor stack. It's got this silly plastic cover on the top which does absolutely nothing, but electric motor down below, driving the front wheels directly, and then this is all your other electronics, your charger and your inverter systems. Coolant bottle there, because obviously I said we got the radiator down there with the cooling fan on the back, and all the electronics here in these aluminium enclosures are all water cooled to keep them cool. Standard 12 volt battery. Quite a small 12 volt battery on these. The 12 volt battery runs everything else on the car. Everything's standard 12 volts. So your lights, wipers, dash, all the ECUs in the car is all 12 volt and it's powered by that. But there's obviously no alternator driving, charging the battery while you're driving. So that's what the inverter does. It's taking 400 volt from the battery, 400 volt DC, converts it to 14 volt DC and charges the battery while you drive. And then we got our air conditioning hoses, washer bottle, and everything that's orange is the high voltage cables, so cables from the battery and the charging ports. Then our fuse box and brake reservoir, but pretty standard stuff. The only thing that's different on these is that the car, while it's switched off, very cleverly can charge the 12 volt battery if that starts getting low, and other EVs don't do that. So all EVs are susceptible to running the 12 volt battery flat, just like a petrol or diesel car does. If it's left for long periods, the battery goes flat and therefore the car doesn't start. An EV still needs a 12 volt battery to start the car, because this is firing up all the ECUs and the dash. It's not turning over an engine, but it's still required to make everything live before it will start. And if an EV is left for a long time, or the battery's getting low and it gets clobbered by your first frost in the autumn, most EVs will be dead, just like they would be with a petrol or diesel vehicle. But on the Ioniq, it's measuring the battery while it's turned off, and it will actually switch on the traction battery and the inverter and charge the battery for you, so you're never caught. So it's a really handy system, and it can display it on the dash, and actually a lot of mornings you go to switch on and you just get a little message to say that system did kick in overnight. It's quite reassuring. Premium SE models, you do get sensors at the front as well. However, like all cars, they're not the best things, because actually they don't come on when you pull straight into a parking space. You've got to be below a certain speed, and you've got to select reverse first before the front sensors are engaged. So actually you can pull straight into a space, and if you haven't been in reverse you can still hit something because your sensors aren't working. So I wouldn't flock to an SE model over a premium model just for the front parking sensors. The wheels on both models are 16 inch, only one type of alloy wheel design. Obviously the two different colours, and the profile of the tyres are 55, so they're 205 55 R16. Personally, I prefer having a deeper tyre wall. It makes the car more comfortable. You're less susceptible to punctures and damage from potholes, and if you're like me and live in rural areas, the roads are absolutely terrible, and I would much rather a deeper sidewall than a very low profile tyre. But maybe that's more to do with my age, because I would much rather comfort than the sporty look. All models have keyless entry. The keys are quite nice high quality, but you can just keep the key in your pocket, and you only need to push the button there on the door to lock or unlock it. And the same goes with the boot. You can just push the rubber button there to open it, as long as you've got the key. Car detects that you've got the key on you when you're inside, and to start it you just need to put your foot on the brake pedal and push the power button. So let's have a quick look at the inside. So this one is now started up. Very nice display. This side you can customize. You've got various options here that you can display different menus up on the screen, and with each one you can use the up and down arrows to toggle through different screens of information. So huge amounts of options there. You get a very nice sat nav on all Kia and Hyundai cars. You also have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay on these as well, which is just absolutely great. So I'm not going to go into too much detail all on the multimedia system, because it does an awful lot, but it is very good, very intuitive, and you don't need to read the manual. It's all straightforward. It's all touch screen as well, including the buttons on your steering wheel. It's just really simple to use. I do like both the Kia and the Hyundai multimedia systems. I know everyone raves about the BMW iDrive that you get in the i3, and obviously all the combustion engine BMWs, and I've had that. I've had a BMW. We've still got a BMW i3. I actually prefer the Kia and Hyundai system over all of them. I think these are really simple to use. So let's talk about the heating system next. These have a heat pump heating system, very efficient. I'm actually going to put it on because I'm baking inside this car. Let's just turn the fan down a bit so it's not making too much noise on the camera. We've also got a drivers only mode, which is quite nice. So if you're on your own, then it's only going to heat this side of the car or cool this side of the car. We've got heated seats, but the premium SE model, which has the leather seats, also has cooled seats. So you get cooled air coming through the pinprick holes there in the leather. It works okay. I must admit, I can hardly feel it, and obviously we've had a really hot summer this summer, and I put it on, but it's not a fantastic system. I wouldn't miss it if I didn't have it, but certainly heated seats you want. It's also got heated steering wheel as well. That makes a huge difference in the winter, because you can maybe have your heating down less, or just use the preconditioning and get the car ready, and then from then on not have the heating on and just use your heated steering wheel, heated seats. Very efficient just to heat your contact points rather than trying to heat the whole cabin, and it really does work. There's also an EV button here, and you can get loads of EV information to do with your range, chargers, all that sort of stuff. Personally, I don't look up charging stations in any EVs. I found them not to be particularly reliable. A car can never sort of be as up to date as the apps on your phone. So using ZapMap or PlugShare, I only use ZapMap, is a much more reliable method of finding the latest charge information, because they're putting so many chargers in now. ZapMap is just always up to date, whereas the cars tend to not be. And when it catches you out once, you tend to not use it again. But if you obviously you can't use your phone when you're driving, so this is sometimes easier to find the location and find nearby chargers. Is up to you. What's quite nice is we can look at energy information, and we can look at the current consumption, and we can see what's using the power. It's quite nice if you're really getting low on range. You can see how much the climate control is using and how much the electronics is using. The electronics is basically the lights, wipers, dash, radio, all that sort of stuff. Also the ECUs in the car, so you can't cut off the electronics completely. But it's quite nice to see what's using the electricity. And we have two ranges left, 96 miles with the climate on, as we're not driving, we're stationary, but I've got the climate control on. But if we turn the climate control off, we'll gain another 2 miles. It's all an estimate, but it's a nice system. What else do I need to show you? We've got wireless charging for your phone. You can just put your phone down there and it would charge if you have a phone that supports it. Mine doesn't. Your gear selectors here, you've just got individual switches for your drive, reverse, park and neutral. Little leather resting bit there to rest your palm. It's a bit pointless. Electronic handbrake, turn the parking sensors off, heated steering wheel. Auto hold is nice. I don't know why it doesn't come on all the time now. You have to manually select it. And what auto hold is it holds the brakes on, so when you've touched the brakes you can then lift off if you're sat in traffic or on a hill, but just sat in traffic, the brakes stay on if you've got auto hold, and then all you do is touch the accelerator and it automatically releases the brakes. I've had that on a lot of cars and it's a really nice feature. So we've got 2 cup holders. You've got this huge storage bin here. This is really nice feature. I chuck my keys and phone and all sorts in there. It's really good, much easier than using a pocket. We've got quite a large storage box down here and a little tray in front you can put coins and things in. It's all really nicely designed. I do like the interior on these cars. It's just you get in it and there's a lot of buttons which you get with Korean cars, but it's all very familiar, very easy to use, unlike something like Japanese and Toyota cars and the Nissan Leaf. The ergonomics on these cars is just spot on. So let's next just talk about your flappy paddles. So this is your regen braking adjustment, and the Ioniq has 2 paddles either side behind your steering wheel, and it adjusts the regen braking in 3 stages. So you have 0, 1, 2, 3. Well, actually it's 4 stages because 0 is a setting in its own right. So level 3 regen is really severe regen. It's really nice. It's very strong regen, about the same as what a BMW i3 is set up to, and about the same as what Teslas are set up to. Once you're used to having strong regen, that's a really nice function on an EV, and I tend to keep it in level 3 all the time. But you can go from 1, 2 and 3 and adjust it. So if you're coming up to a junction, you can put it on level 1, and if you need to slow down a bit more, level 2, and if you're slowing down a bit too much, you can drop it back to level 1, and it means you never touch the brakes and you can do all your slowing down on the regen. And on these cars it's strong enough that you don't ever need to touch the brakes, and you can do all your driving on regen, and obviously that's a lot more efficient because you're putting charge back into the battery and you're not wearing out your brake pads. And then level 0 is regen off. It's a cruise mode, and that's quite nice, and it properly freewheels. So once you've got up to your speed, you can lift off the accelerator and it will just coast. So if you're coming up to, say, good example is if you're driving along a normal A road and you're coming to a 30-mile-an-hour limit, you can lift off the accelerator, leave it in level 0 cruising, and you can coast all the way to that limit, and you're saving energy. And it will go for a long way. And then as you're coming up to that speed limit, you just knock your regen up to brake, and you can time it just right and enter that speed limit at 30 miles an hour without ever touching the brakes. It's quite a nice feature. And of course, if you've got a bit of a gradient and a downhill, you can lift off the accelerator, have it on level 0 and just freewheel downhill. And if you need to slow down, obviously rack up the regen and capture a bit of energy back. The Premium SE has memories on the seat, so you've got 2 memory buttons here. It's got electric driver's seat, so you can store 2 people's positions. We've got our switches here on the door for all the windows and the locks and the mirrors. We've got automatic folding mirrors. The mirrors there will fold in, and you can have it on the so they automatically fold in when you lock, but also as you walk up to the car, before you've opened the door, the mirrors unfold to greet you. It's something that the Kias and the Hyundai electric cars have. It tends to just use battery power unnecessarily, so I tend to turn it off, but it's a nice feature if you want to have something a bit different. So you get a lot of kit on these cars. I'm not going to cover it all, but for cars of this age and this price point, they beat every other EV in terms of equipment and standard equipment. Even on both trims, the Premium and the Premium SE, you get a lot more than you do on other cars. And its nearest comparison is always going to be the Leaf, and a top spec Leaf is called the Tecna. And on a Tecna Leaf, you do get leather seats, heated steering wheel, LED lights and a Bose sound system. But you get a lot more on these, and even the standard premium spec, you get a lot more kit. Primarily it's sort of technology, safety kit that you don't get on the Leaf. You do on the new 40 kilowatt hour Leaf, but that's not a fair comparison. So like for like, in its model year 2017 to 2019, you get a lot more kick on these Ioniqs than you do on any other EV, and more safety kit as well. So I missed the driving mode, so let's quickly talk about that. You've got a switch here that toggles between 3 driving modes. So as I push the switch, your dash changes. So that's normal mode, that's sport mode, and then that's eco mode. So let's talk about eco mode first. It's just like all other EVs. It reduces the power to the motor to make you accelerate a little bit more gently and preserves range. It also dulls the power to the climate control system a little bit. But on here, it caps our top speed to 60, which it does on a lot of EVs, to a set speed. But on these, the rest of your dash disappears, the rest of the dial. So it's a bit like what it used to do on the old Saabs. You would only light up the part of the dash that you had a night mode that you were using. It's quite a nice feature. So I drive around in eco pretty much all the time. When you're on rural roads or town roads, you're not going to drive any more than 60 anyway. It's only if you're up on a motorway, then I might put it in normal mode. It's plenty powerful enough in eco mode. But if I push the button again, we're now in normal mode. We can see we've got all the digits on the dial. Again, yeah, it's fine. So sport mode, the dash changes and the outside edge is no longer your speed. The speed is in the middle, and this is power, but it means absolutely nothing. It's all a bit pointless, but it's quite nice. It gives you this orange display so you know you're in sport mode. And it does make quite a difference. These are quite nippy. There's other reviews saying they're not particularly fast and a bit sort of sluggish, but I didn't find this at all. And I came straight from driving a BMW i3 as my normal driver. And the power of these was a lot better than I was expecting. So a Leaf is probably a little bit more powerful, but there isn't much in it. And when you want the power, this still gives you a kick in the, it pins you back in the seat. It doesn't last forever. It's like at low speeds, you can shoot off really quick, like you can in all EVs. You got that instant torque. But this is good. It's no slouch whatsoever, and I'm quite impressed with it. I don't use sport mode very often. I find it a little bit too jerky at low speeds because it's giving you all the power. So if you, for example, you want to sort of switch lanes or get out of a junction quick, or you've done something silly and you want to shoot off and get out of people's way, it does that absolutely brilliantly. It is fast, but it's where you want it. It's from 0 to sort of 40. You get all the power in it. It's fast. Above that, it does sort of start running out of puff a little bit, but it's still faster than majority of petrol and diesel cars or anything like this. It's still hugely quicker. It's just not. It's not a sporty car. It's not a BMW i3. It's not a Tesla Model 3 or anything like that. This car's all about efficiency, but it's no slouch, and in sport mode it's still great fun and very lively. And I'll quickly go back to efficiency again. We can see here my driving is 5.1 miles per kilowatt hour, and actually if we go on the screen here and we go to EV, I don't go into this very often, but we look at eco driving and history, we can see here my driving, a 34-mile trip, 5.3 miles per kilowatt hour. This is just me going backwards and forwards to work, 3, 4, 5 miles, 5.4, 4.1, 5.5, and I'm not even trying. I'm not driving this efficiently. So you're getting a mile per kilowatt hour better than you would in another EV. Certainly than you would in a Leaf. It's quite difficult to drive a Leaf, particularly efficiency. And on these, you can get 5 miles per kilowatt hour without even trying. I've even had this to 8, and not over a short distance either. These are quite astonishing. If you want to drive them gently, you will get some really good range out of these cars. All models do get a sunglass holder up here at the top as well. In the back here, we've got Isofix on both seats. In the middle here, we've got the armrest with the cup holders in. On the Premium SE, the back seats are heated, which is nice, but not on the standard Premium model. We've got ventilation vents here, but there's no power sockets or USB sockets in the back, nets on the back of the seats, cup holders in the doors. It's all pretty standard stuff apart from lack of charging. And as far as space goes, I'm 5'10", that seat's in my position. I've got plenty of room. There's a good 4 inches in front of my knees. My feet can go underneath the seat. It does feel quite spacious. The headroom I can't really show you, but it's not great, but my head isn't touching the roof. But if I put my head back on the headrest, I've only got a finger thickness between top of my head and the roof, so anyone taller will probably have to slouch a little bit, but fine for kids and fine for Mr. Average Adult. But if you are taller, then your hair will be on the roof lining. The only other thing I quickly want to mention, the seating. So in a premium SE like my blue one I've just gone out of, that's got the electric seat as I showed you. In a standard premium model you don't have electric seat, you've got a manual driver's seat, but you have height adjustment, but you still got electric lumbar adjustment, which is this bit here. And the fabric on these seats, a lot of pictures make it looks like it's sort of like a velour like you would have in a Japanese car, but it's not. It's quite a hard wearing fabric. It's actually really nice, and they are very comfortable seats. I'm going to do another video on the differences between the premium and the premium SE, but in reality there's not much in it. There's only a few bits of extra kit, but all the bits you want, like this heated seats, heated steering wheel, leather steering wheel, the nicer sound system, all of that, and the LED lights you still get on the standard model. So it's not like for example the Lease, where the lesser model doesn't have all this stuff. On the Ioniq you get pretty much everything as standard. So the final thing I want to talk about is the warranty. So we all know Kia and Hyundais have better warranties than other manufacturers. On these it is 5 years on everything, and then 8 years on the traction battery. And on the traction batteries they're particularly good. That car, as I said, is mine and is done 70,000 miles. I've scanned the battery and that battery is still at 100% state of health, so it hasn't lost anything in 3 years and that sort of mileage. And these cars have proved to be absolutely bulletproof. They're very reliable cars, and if you're looking at a family electric car, then at this sort of age you're still going to have a warranty on them, whereas obviously a Nissan Leaf will be at its end of warranty. So from that point it makes these a better buy as well. So I hope you found that useful. If you have liked this video, please do click that little thumbs up button on YouTube. That really does help, and it allows other people to find the videos. And have a look at all the past content on the channel. There's lots of EV videos there. And maybe subscribe and hit the little bell icon to be notified when I upload a new video.